I can give you a number of examples. So, as a platform, as an architecture and design platform, we get calls and emails very often, people believing that we're actually a firm. But we always have to clarify to people that no, we're not a firm. We're a platform that shares work from other firms, designers, interior designers, landscape architects. I've gotten calls from people that want to buy a stool that they saw on our website. I've gotten calls from people that want to build a house because we share a lot of content, about residential design, hotel design, and people call us asking, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. I've even gotten a call from somebody that said he reached out to an architect and got no response, which was why he was calling me. Now, we're a platform, we're not a practice, but imagine if we were a practice. What would happen? We get business through that immediately. And a lot of architects are missing out on those opportunities. So it's important for you to have not just a nice website, but a functional website. Now we move to the how. Building an effective website. When it comes to web design, as you've been told in architecture, form must follow function. Do not in any way believe that you have to do something glitzy, fancy, that does backflips and front flips for your website. It doesn't help. It has been proven over years that that way doesn't work when it comes to web design, because all it does is that it distracts your visitors. Your visitors are on your website for one thing, information. It's less about you and it's more about them. But as architects, a lot of the time when we're working on our websites or designing our websites, we're doing it for us. We want it to look a certain way, we want it to feel a certain way. We're almost doing it for other architects as well. Kind of like a way to show off. But you're missing the plot if you're doing that. It's actually not about you or other architects, it's about your visitors. They're trying to find information. So you shouldn't get too carried away with abstract concepts, and you should remember why you're building the website. Why are you building the website? Nobody can remember. Exactly. So are you trying to get exposure to other architects? You're trying to get exposure to who? Exactly. So if you're designing your website to look fine so other architects can say, hey, he has a nice website, you're missing the plot. It should be targeted towards potential clients and potential and existing clients as well. Now, in building an effective website, your website must be, one, functional and easy to use. Should have intuitive navigation, legible, readable text, not that font that you like so much that is so cool that you can't read. No, use a legible font that you can actually read and people can read and see. It should also have a clean layout. It should, of course, like I said, form is following function here. So yeah, it has to look nice, it has to be attractive. It should have nice colors, shapes, graphics, and high quality images. I can't overemphasize this enough, it's so frustrating. Architects, please stop publishing iPhone pictures of your projects. It's not helping you, it's really not. Just like she has spent the last couple of minutes talking about photography, it's probably the single most important thing in your career as an architect to invest in photography. Why? They're your buildings. If you don't capture them or document them properly, then who is going to do it for you? Photography is probably, aside from the design itself, photography is probably the single most important next thing that you should invest in as an architect. Thirdly, your website must be optimized. Your website should be responsive. I don't know if anybody here knows what responsiveness is when it comes to web design. Good. So for people that don't know, let me kind of try to explain. If I go to a website on a desktop, right? When I move to a tablet or a phone, I should have the same experience. It shouldn't be that when I'm on the desktop, it's finer or nicer than when I'm on the phone. And it shouldn't be that when I'm on the tablet, it looks different. You have to have the same experience, which is what responsive design is. So your web design should be able to transition from each of these devices seamlessly and give the same experience. Now, another thing that's very important to optimize is SEO and keywords. Who here knows what SEO is? Sorry? Exactly, search engine optimization. Who here knows what it is? Yeah, you know what it stands for, but do you actually know what it is? Basically, it's how people find you. So, I'm going to do I'm guessing everybody here has a smartphone, right? And you have data. Let's try a little bit. Nobody has data. Who has data? Who has data? Let me try a little bit of an experiment. I'm not boasting or bragging. It might not work, but let me try. If you Googled right now, container architecture Lagos, chances are 90 to 95% our site would come up on the first page. The reason for that being, you can try it and let me know if you have data. The reason for that is because we've published so much content about container architecture in Lagos that a lot of other people haven't done. So when people look for it, we come up first. Oh, you got it? Did we come up? We did. Thank you very much. Who else? I'm feeling good. Did we come up? Oh, we did. Second page. First page or second page? Oh, hey, here we go. So you can see what I'm telling you. It's important for you to use keywords in coming up with text and descriptions for your website. We're still going to talk about that a little bit as we go further. Of course, you have to optimize for social media. Now, this social media thing is very important. It's not by force for you to be on every single social media platform. No, don't do it. You can't even manage it, let's be honest. How many of you can manage all the social media platforms that you're on now? I'm sure everybody here has a LinkedIn profile, right? Some people have LinkedIn. When was the last time you went to your LinkedIn? Be honest. Sorry? 3 months, 6 months, 2014, wow. The point I'm trying to make with this is, pick social media platforms that you can manage. Now, the essence of this presentation is both for the big firms and even the single individual. Big firms can hire people, can hire social media managers, can have a team of social media managers that can manage 3, 4, 5 multiple accounts. But as an individual or a small team, it's important for you to focus on which makes the most sense. Now, in my experience and in the interactions I've had with firms, I find that the 2 most popular social media platforms for architecture firms are Facebook and Instagram, not Twitter. Some are on Twitter, but it makes no sense. You're not a writer, you're an architect. People want to see stuff. And Twitter, obviously, is not as visual as Facebook or Instagram. So those 2 are a good start for you if you're setting up your website and you have to connect social media to it. Those 2 should be the ones you focus on. Also because you'd probably be able to manage them a little easier than if you added Twitter, then LinkedIn, then Pinterest, then whatever else. Come on, it starts getting ridiculous at a point in time. Focus on what you can manage. Now, another thing you should optimize for is loading time. It's very interesting because she just spoke about images and she can kind of bear me witness to an extent. High-res images are very good and very important, like I've said, but if you don't optimize for size, file size, it can affect the performance of your website. So you can have a very fantastic image. And usually when you take images, I'm sure the average size is like, 25 MB, something like that. So 35, exactly. So imagine uploading 20, 35 MB photos to your website. Aside from the fact that you'll probably finish your data, it will take 1 year for that website to load. Why? Because it's too heavy. So in as much as photography is important, you have to optimize it. And even on our platform, we get sent a lot of content from different practices all over the world, locally and outside the country. Sometimes when they send us their media kits, they send us images and we have about maybe 20 images. And the file is like 350 MB, sometimes 500 MB. So when we get that, we don't just upload it immediately onto the site. We have to reduce the file size. And we do it in such a way that you don't lose fidelity, you don't lose the resolution, you just reduce the size. When you do that, your website is optimized. So when people visit your website, it don't take a long time to load. One of the reasons why websites sometimes take time to load, aside from maybe your internet connection or whatever else, is because it's too heavy. There's too much, there's too much content on the site, and it's too heavy. It's dragging on. So you have to optimize for that as well. Now, one thing that your website must be is relevant. It's sad to say, and I don't know if there are anybody from big practices in Nigeria today, a lot of Nigerian architecture practices, their websites are not relevant. Not in the least bit. They're not usually updated. The last project that was there maybe was done in 2005 or 2006. And it's not because they don't have work, but it's not important to them. Like I said when I started, websites are about exposure. But not everybody sees a reason for me to spend the time, energy, or money in putting it into that to try to get business from it. I'd rather just go the traditional way. So they miss out on those opportunities. Like I said, our platform gets so many calls, so many emails from people looking for architects. So we've even been able to kind of leverage that business-wise and connect people that are looking for architects to architects that we believe can handle those kinds of projects. And that's sad because as an architect, you should be able to have an online presence that you can manage. So your website must be relevant. One of the ways which you stay relevant, having a website, is writing. As an architect, it should be your second best friend, aside from drawing. You should be able to write. Now, let me tell you why you should be able to write. Who did the design of the building? You did. So who can best describe it? You. Why do you have to pay somebody else or give somebody else that responsibility to write about your work? It's important for you to develop that skill. And I'm saying this both as an architect and as somebody that has found himself in architectural journalism some way, somehow. It's very important. When we get submissions from other firms, you can see the descriptions of their buildings well written. And it's something that people can read and engage with and learn from. But on this end, not so much. Now, there are those people that do a good job. Some practices here do a good job. But a lot of them don't. And a lot of them don't put the effort or energy into it. And that's something that we, the younger guys, should learn from and seek to do better. Because when you create good content around your work, that's how you generate leads. The minute you are putting out stuff about your projects, your work online, when people start searching for stuff, just like you did just now, you searched for Container Architecture Lagos and we came up. So imagine if that was your site and you had done, let's say you did a house in Parkview and you wrote about it or you did an article about it. When somebody is searching for a residential architect in Lagos, you'd probably come up. Why? Because you've put content out there. You've put yourself out there. You've sought to get exposure. So, we've talked about what your website must be. Now let's talk about what your website must say. Your website must say who you are. Now, this is a very funny, should I say, well, yeah, funny part. If you look at, I'm sure everybody here has been to an architect's website of some kind. If you look at the descriptions of some architects' websites, can you remember how it was framed? Can anybody remember what it sounded like or what it read like? Did you see the word multidisciplinary in there somewhere? Or something like, we have a team of architects and this and that and all whatnot. That's too generic. Imagine if you met me and I walked up to you and said, I am an architect and an engineer and a superhero. Does that make any sense? What's the first thing I'd say if I met you? I tell you what? Thank you. I tell you my name. So in talking about or writing about your practice or your architecture profession, because let me say this also, this is not just for people that have practices. You can be an individual and have a good website. Sorry, what's your name? If you don't mind me asking. Sorry? Chibueze. So you can be, sorry, what's your full name? Chibueze. Good. You can have chibuezeazoji.com. Do you realize that? Before you get to the point where you would have Chibueze and Partners or Chibueze and Associates, you can have chibuezeadoji.com. And you can share what you do right now to everybody else. I'm guessing everybody here can do 3D renders and do gymnastics with SketchUp and Revit and all whatnot. Those are tradable skills. And if you have a personal website where you share these skills and the work you've done, what's going to happen? People are going to reach out to you to say, hey, this guy's good. Let's give him some work. So it's important for you to be able to define who you are and say it properly. Don't come off like, oh, we're a multidisciplinary firm or we're this and that. Be somewhat personal. Introduce yourself. What's your name? What's the name of your firm? Where is it located? How old is it? What kind of work do you do? Residential, hospitality. That's the process you should take in writing about your firm. Not that generic crap of interdisciplinary whatever mumble jumble. So, in talking about who you are, you now move to what you do. Now, of course, like I said, every architect here wants to work on multiple projects. I'm not saying everybody is going to just design houses or just design hospitals. You're probably going to do all of them. But at some point in your career, you would find that you've done more of one thing than another. Everybody here knows Tosi Oshinowo, CMDA, right? Everybody, I want to believe everybody here knows who that is. What's her most famous project? Sorry? Black Box, what? Maryland Mall, right? Maryland Mall, that's her most famous project. But what do you think she has done more of? Sorry? Thank you. You may not know, but Tosin is called the Queen of the Beach House. If you Google, you can try this again now. If you Google Beach House Lagos, Tosin's name will come up. Maybe on our site, maybe not, really can't say. But the point is, she has created, and it was completely accidental. She didn't set out when she was in school or when she was working that, oh, I'm going to design beach houses. But as time went by, that work kept coming. So it became something that she was good at. In the same way, everybody here knows Saota, right? The South African architects. Have you heard of them? They do all sorts of buildings, but they're most known for their residential work. The Kingsway Tower along Alfred Rwani, I don't know if you know that building. It's curved, it has like a mesh facade. That's Saota. That's an office building, right? But most of the work that they're actually known for is the residential work that they do. There's another architect that I'm very fond of, David Baker Architects. They're based in the US. They do a lot of affordable housing. But if you see their affordable housing, it looks like something you would find in Banana Island. But that's affordable housing in the US. This is not, like I said, something that they set out to do, but over time, that's what happened. So in describing what you do, you have to be able to, yes, cover all the areas, but highlight the places where you have strengths and where you are most competent. Then we talk about what you've done, your projects. Of course, now this is where you would describe your projects, you would put in details of budget, materials, you would add sketches, drawings, renderings, professional images, and all that good stuff. And like I said before, that's why it's important for you to cultivate the habit of writing. Because who else is going to describe your project other than you? So it's something you have to be able to do so that when you get work and you do those very fantastic projects, you can be able to put it out there in a fashion that people would like to read and even want to call you or engage with you. So another thing your website must say is how to contact you. Of course, your website should have some kind of call to action, some kind of sign-up form or email form to be able to reach you. The last thing that your website should do, and this is very important, it was what I spoke about earlier about share what you know. Your website should say what you know. And I'm talking about blogging. Now, it's one thing to build a website and have your projects up there and your services and you've said who you are and all whatnot. It's supremely important for you now to be able to share what you know. And I'll tell you why. When clients are looking for information, they are looking for solutions. They are looking for specific kinds of information. A lot of the time I've been asked, oh, how do you even go about building approval in Lagos? Those are the kinds of things that they want to know. Oh, how much does it cost to build a 3-bedroom flat? So there's nothing stopping you as an architect from writing about that. You can write about the experience you've had in building. You can write about your project. You can tell a story about the project that you did. A lot of the content that we featured on our site have that fashion. There are some videos that we featured on our site that are about entire projects and what the architects went through to realize those projects. The more you do that, the more people are inclined to, one, engage with you, and two, want to reach out to you. Why? Because they see you as a source of information. And it's important for you to do this for free. And I'll tell you why again. You are adding value to yourself and them. The minute they're searching for things and you keep coming up, it's your results that keep showing up, they feel as though, okay, this guy must know something. This guy is offering me so much value up front for free that I think I might as well just call him up to be my architect. But if you never wrote and if you never put anything out there about what you know, that won't happen. So, like I've said, create the content that can inform and engage and educate your visitors. I'm sure you've heard people not in the industry say, what do architects even do, Seth? Is it not to draw lines? Abi, you've heard that, and you all feel terrible about it. I say, you must be crazy. After I spent 6 years in school, you are telling me I'm drawing lines, you're not well. They don't know any better. It's really not their fault. I've been on forums where people believe architects are engineers. When I say believe, I mean really believe that you're an engineer now. And they would argue back and forth about it. And the reason for that is because they don't know any better. So the onus is on us to educate. And the more you put out stuff, the more you write about what you do, the more you are educating people. So by the time people are engaging with you, they're not engaging with you on the platform of, is it not just to draw a line? They're engaging with you on the platform of, okay, this guy has value. This has happened to me on so many occasions, I have lost count. I'm a very big housing enthusiast, especially container housing. I believe very strongly in affordable housing. I've been researching it for the last 10, 15 years. And I'm very, very passionate about housing, especially container housing. I'm an architect, right? But the platform that I run isn't a practice. So I can't engage with a client on that platform. But because we've put out so much content about container architecture, I keep getting calls and emails. That allowed me to be able to take advantage of those opportunities as an architect. So yeah, while I run living spaces, I still also practice as an architect. So when people call me, I can tell them, hey, look, living spaces is not a practice. However, if you're interested in engaging or doing a project like this, I could help. And they're more than willing to do that because when they speak with me, they're like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. And that's how I've gotten a number of projects and a number of jobs that I've done in the past, and even till today. I still got a call today about the same thing. So the more content you put out about what you do, the more you educate people about what it is that you do, what it is that you can offer, the more you're able to help them find out more about the problem that they're trying to solve, the more likely they are to engage with you as their architect. So let's now talk about the real how on how you actually build a website. There are 5 simple basic steps to building a website. Who here has a website, runs a website, has built a website before? Anyone? You have? You have? Okay, yeah, you are definitely. Who else? No one else? Okay, so these 5 steps, right, can cost you 0 naira, but not really. Let me say that again. It's free, but not really. The amount you would pay to do it is not very much. So, step 1, purchase and register your domain. Underneath there, you can see about 6 different logos for 6 different hosting companies. You can purchase domains for as little as, I think, 3,000 or 3,500 naira or something like that. It's not very expensive. Now, the reason why that particular thing is important as a first step is because when you go to hosting sites, a lot of time when you want to buy hosting, they'll give you a free domain. They'll tell you, oh, pay for the hosting, we'll give you a free domain. It's advisable for you to actually buy the domain because if you don't buy it and you just take their free offer, you don't actually own it. And it's believed that it can be taken from you. So imagine paying for hosting and getting a free domain and you set up your website and you now hear that somebody else bought your domain. You now have to go and pay that person. So to avoid any wahala like that, just buy the domain. It's not very expensive. So after buying the domain, you set up a hosting account. Any of these 6 options goes. 2 of them are Nigerian. That's Q Servers and Whogohost are Nigerian, even though I've heard very unsavory things about Whogohost. So be careful. But Q servers, for the most part, seem to make sense, or you can just go outside the country. Our website is hosted outside the country, largely because of its size. We couldn't really find anyone in country that could give us what we required at the price we required. So we host, outside the country, but there are options within the country that are probably cheaper. Now, the third step is you should choose a content management system. Now, I bet 8 to 9 out of 10 websites that you visit are run by that first guy there called WordPress. Reason being, it's the fastest, cheapest, easiest way for you to run a website. Long time ago, before, when people used to design websites, you had to do it manually. You had to upload files manually. You needed a developer to do all that work for you. But WordPress makes it much easier. It allows you to do it yourself. And it's pretty much, it's like 1 + 1, really, when it comes to web design, when it comes to uploading content for your website. So the next thing for you to do is choose a content management system. There are about 4 of them there. WordPress really is probably the best one out of the 4. Like I said, 8 out of 10 websites probably run on WordPress. So I would recommend you using WordPress. Next is for you to choose or buy a theme. Now, when you install WordPress, there are free themes, plenty. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of themes that you can choose from to set up your website. Chances are they may not be very fine. You may not entirely like them, so it makes sense for you to spend a little bit more to buy a theme. Now, if you're looking to buy a theme, those 3 websites that I listed there are good places where you can get really nice themes for architects, architecture websites, portfolio sites. There are places that you can go and they usually don't cost too much. Sometimes between maybe $30, $50, depending on the quality of it. Remember, you've not really spent much up till now, so fork out the $30 or $50. Don't be stingy. Then the last thing is for you to start uploading your content. That's the fun part. So that's where you get to upload all your images that you've optimized before you go and upload 500 MB picture. Upload your images, your drawings, all of that stuff, and get your website up and running. Now, these are some tools that can help. Now, if you don't want to buy hosting and go through that trouble, these guys offer packages whereby you basically do everything within their space, especially Squarespace. So Squarespace can give you plans whereby you can buy a domain from them, they'll host your site, and you can get templates on their site. And their templates, their themes are really, really nice, really cool. I don't remember how much it is, but it's not too expensive. So it's an option if you're looking for something that's really quick and you want to get a website out really fast, that's a good option to go for. All of them really have that functionality. But the thing about them, some of them, especially Wix, they have different types of accounts. So you have free accounts and you have paid accounts. If your account is free, you're going to have something like this, abcarchitects.wix.com. Now, if you want people to take you seriously as an architect or professional, that doesn't sound too good. It makes sense for you to have chibueze.azoji.com, no Wix or Squarespace or anything. So if you're going to go with one of these guys, that's something you need to consider. You need to say to yourself, okay, maybe I should just pay a little more so I can have that full autonomy without them adding their name to it because they're giving it to you for free anyway. Now, that's top. Okay. So other tools that can help. So let's say this website thing, bros, it gets as it be. I might not be able to really do it right now, even with the free one and the other one. Architecture network platforms like Architizer, Arkello, House can help. You still, however, have to be able to write, have to be able to optimize images and do all the things that we've talked about. The difference is that your work will now be domiciled within those websites. Now, a lot of practices, a lot of global big practices, I'm talking about the Foster and Partners, Zaha, Deed Architects, and all of them, they still have pages on these networks. It's almost like a free website, almost. It would still, if you put out enough content and enough work, and people type in stuff, your results will probably still come up on these platforms. But the downside to it is that you can't customize it. You can't make it look how you want it to look. It's going to be a part of their own platform. I know there are a lot of Nigerians on House, especially the interior designers. They have I've seen a lot of them on House, and I think Arkello as well. Now, we spoke about SEO. One way for you to boost your SEO and for you to get the most exposure is for you to publish outside of your website. It's always a fantastic thing when you have a website and people are linking to your website. I'm sure you guys do something very often. When you're on Facebook, you see a very nice thing, and what do? You click what? Share, exactly. So in a similar fashion, when other sites link to your site, that's like sharing. What that's doing is that it's giving you exposure. It's saying, oh, this place is a place you should go to, it's a place you should visit, check it out. So online publishing platforms like ArtDaily, Dezeen, and yours truly can help with things like that and help you get the most exposure for your website. Now, things you should know, skills you should have. Like I've already said, it's very important for you to develop copywriting and creative writing as an architect because you're the best person to describe your own project. Photo editing, like Tolu had mentioned, is also important. And not photo editing like you are changing colors or removing stuff from images, nothing too crazy. More like what we had talked about optimizing photos. So like for us, we have software where sometimes people send us projects and they have up to 50 images. So you have to resize 50 images. You can't do it one by one. So you just pick a software that can do that and resize all the images. Sometimes when we go for events, and we have to take pictures ourselves, those are things that we have to do as well. So you as an architect, if you are going to be, if after this talk that Tolu gave, you decide, okay, I'm going to get a camera and start taking pictures, you're still going to need to have that skill of how to at least basically edit the photographs so that you can optimize them for your website. Then of course, yes, graphic design. I'm sure everybody here has some level of skill in graphics. For some odd reason, architects always just know how to do graphics one way or the other. So it's a good skill to develop. Truth be told, when I finished school, I finished about 12 years ago, I actually didn't practice. For the first 3 or 4 years, I actually didn't work in an architecture office. I actually set up my own company, and I was doing graphics. And we went from graphics to become branding. And I ended up starting doing branding for companies and small businesses and all whatnot. And it started just from me learning the basics of graphic design. And of course, I had to develop that skill to go further. But it's an important skill to have. Then as you go along in your web design journey, you would find that there are sometimes you get a template or you get something, but you want to maybe customize it a little. That's where things like rudimentary programming skills come into play. Now, it's not compulsory. I'm not saying everybody should go and start learning programming, but in this day and age, it's an important skill to have, especially for the younger guys that are still in school. I'd advise you personally, try and develop that particular skill. It's not too difficult. It's actually pretty easy when you know what to do. So, okay, yeah, before I forget, these are some websites you can reference for more information on what I've spoken about in terms of web design and really just the business of architecture generally and how you can just be a better architect and be more in tune with the things that you need to do to make the most of your practice. So thank you guys for your time.